Good morning, everybody. First of all, thank you for turning up in large numbers, registering and turning in large numbers. And we begin the program now. First of all, my name is Ramachandran. I am the President of Indian Police Foundation. In my introductory remarks, I'm required to set the stage and set the context of this important workshop. But before doing that, I'll briefly introduce the Indian Police Foundation for the benefit of those who are not familiar with the organization. The IPF plays a number of roles. Firstly, it is an independent think tank. It is a platform for policy advocacy, an organization that works for police reform and evidence-based policing. And above all, it is a professional institution, a membership-based professional institution for police officers. Let me begin with a story. When in my early days of police service, during my district training, I used to have a head constable driver of Assam Police who used to regale me with stories. He used to assume the mantle of a teacher and keep repeating to me in Assamese language, "Sir, always follow the law. Policing is a very tough profession. It takes tremendous amounts of courage, fortitude, and what may be termed as enlightened diplomacy to navigate through the very difficult, choppy, and sometimes dangerous waters of day-to-day policing. But what will always protect you is the law. Follow the law strictly and steadfastly in every situation. That alone will protect the citizens as well as the police officer." These are the words of my head constable driver. And I feel today that the Indian Police Foundation is all about that message from my head constable teacher. So one of the campaigns that the Indian Police Foundation has been engaged in is about what is called internal police reforms. Now, all of us keep complaining, we keep blaming the politicians that they are the ones who are blocking police reform. Of course, they deserve to be blamed to a great extent, to a considerable extent. At the same time, we are all very well aware that more than half of the aspects that are crying for reform are well within the powers of the police, especially the police leadership. For example, you do not require political clearance for behaving well with the people or for stopping custodial violence. You don't need any political clearance to stop custodial violence or bringing down corruption, or for that matter, improving the quality standards of policing or even training standards, etc. So there are many things that police officers can do themselves without waiting for the Messiah to come and reform the police. Some police officers have identified and listed out a number of areas where internal reforms are possible without having to wait for the blessings of the political establishment. So this is a very powerful agenda that the IPF wants to pursue. And we have set up an IPF Center for Internal Police Reforms. And Dr. Ishkumar, who is going to be the moderator of today's workshop, is the director of the IPF Center for Internal Reforms. These internal reforms are extremely important, extremely crucial, and very much possible. And let us not wait for anything else. We can do it, and IPF will work very closely with the state police to take this internal reforms project forward. So now we come back to the work at hand today. So I will briefly touch upon the context of today's workshop. Our discussions today surrounding the law of arrest is all about procedural justice and the rule of law. We are all aware that the essence of the Article 21 of our Constitution is not only that one should follow due process while dealing with matters affecting the life and liberty of citizens, but also that the process that we follow needs to be lawful, reasonable, just, and fair. That is the essence of Article 21. While arrest of violent criminals and those responsible for heinous crimes may be necessary, the Supreme Court, as well as the Law Commission, have pointed out how large numbers of arrests that are taking place today are unjustified and unnecessary, leading to the clogging of jails and putting too much pressure on the criminal justice system. On multiple occasions, the Supreme Court of India has spoken strongly against the arbitrary exercise of the powers of arrest. Supreme Court has also made several pronouncements laying down clear guidelines on how to carry out arrest where it is necessary. Only a few days back, you will remember the Supreme Court reminded us that the power of arrest should be exercised only sparingly, and that the existence of the power of arrest did not mean that it is necessary to exercise that power and go about arresting people indiscriminately in every case. So all of us know that the police have been coming under strong criticism, especially for instances of indiscriminate arrest of people for seemingly frivolous reasons. There is often a wanton display of high-handedness, sometimes coming under pressure from political bosses, in some cases coming under pressure from media trials, and sometimes even pressure from the public. Obviously, it is time for the police to review some of these practices. And it is in that context that the IPF decided to conduct this workshop today to discuss the issues and practical challenges on the ground, which will be of interest to all the police participants and others who are interested in criminal justice. So at the end of this workshop, we shall be summarizing the important learnings from our discussion and identifying possible action plans for circulation among police organizations in the country. Let me remind here that we are not discussing theory. We need to confine ourselves to what is relevant and practicable on the ground. Today we have lined up a number of, in fact, some of the most experienced and highly regarded police officers, including former police officers, investigators, lawyers, prosecutors, and scholars as our resource persons. And it will be very useful for all the participants to listen to them and participate in the discussions. Those participants who would like to ask questions are requested to write their questions on the text box and say to whom you are asking that question. Subject to availability of time, of course. In fact, we have earmarked 45 minutes for answering questions. So subject to availability of time, we shall take up all the questions one by one. The workshop today will be moderated, as I mentioned, by Dr. Ish Kumar, a former DGP of Andhra Pradesh. He was former DG of NCRB. Dr. Ish Kumar himself is a crusader for reforms. And today is the director of the IPF Center for Internal Police Reforms. May I now request Dr. Ish Kumar, our moderator, to take the discussions forward. Thank you for your attention. Have a good day's discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramachandran sir, for setting the agenda for today's workshop in a very befitting and a comprehensive manner. I once again welcome all the erudite speakers and panelists for today's workshop, as well as the police officers, practitioners, lawyers, and others among the audience. Now, today's workshop is basically divided into 7 sessions. The first session is about the data on the arrest. Then there will be a session on undesirable practices while arresting the people, collateral consequences, both for arrestees as well as their families. Also, the impact on criminal justice system, which means police work, the court work, as well as the prisons. There will be a full session on the changes in the arrest law, which took place in 2008-2009, especially the amendments to the section 41, which have been brought, along with the maybe Arnesh Kumar judgment, which is a landmark judgment of 2014. And then Sandhu sir will be covering the arrest beyond territorial jurisdictions, whether in a same state or a different states, including the international standards for the arrest. And the last session is way forward. Of course, there will be open house as well as we will be compiling the recommendations of today's workshop for circulation. So let me start with the first session. And before starting that, let me just, of course, Mr. Ramphal Pawar would be giving details. As per Crime in India 2020, we have arrested around 68 lakh persons in all the IPC and SLL cases during the year. And another 71 lakh people have been arrested in the preventive arrest. So which together makes it almost 1,37 lakh people arrested during 1 year. Now, the National Police Commission in its third report had mentioned that the 60% of the arrests by the police are unnecessary. And let me just make one more point. That is, if you look at around 43 or 44 lakh IPC cases which are registered in a year, around 80% or more than 80% cases have less than 7 years punishment. So grave or heinous crimes, which are say murders, dacoities, rapes, the terrorist crimes, they hardly constitute 10 to 15% of the total crime spectrum.